Here's an opinion that might rattle a few spreadsheets. There comes a point in time when you need to stop saving for retirement. I know, after decades of hearing save more, save more, save more, this probably feels a little like financial hearsay, but not every phase of your life requires the same strategy. At some point, saving becomes less productive than spending intentionally, managing taxes, and actually enjoying the life you worked for. The tricky part is knowing when that shift has occurred and recognizing it when it does. If you don't make that mental pivot, you could risk missing out on your healthiest, most active years while continuing to stockpile money you may never use. In fact, I had a client, let's call her Judy. She had saved more than enough, but even after we ran the numbers 6 different ways, she still hesitated to spend a dime. Her biggest regret? Not taking that long-awaited trip to Italy with her husband before his health declined. He passed before they could go, and she told me, I thought we had more time. Now maybe you're skeptical, but if you're still saving purely out of habit, not necessity, this video should be your wake-up call. Let's dive in after I quickly introduce myself. Welcome to the Retirement Guide channel. I'm Daryl Rose, and in my role as a retirement strategist, I help people like you plan for and hopefully enjoy retirement. Hopefully. The first reason to stop saving is when your passive income is going to cover all your essential expenses and then some. All right, this is a big one, the kind of financial milestone that quietly changes everything. When your reliable, predictable income streams, if you think Social Security, pensions, annuities, dividends, or even rental income, when all of that money can cover all your essential monthly expenses, you have crossed an invisible finish line, a good one. Housing, groceries, utilities, insurance, healthcare, transportation. If those bases are all covered without having to touch your investment accounts, you have arrived. That's a powerful signal you may no longer need to save for retirement. My clients, Steve and Diana, they're both in their late 60s, and after a securement review, we discovered something quite amazing. Between Steve's pension and their combined Social Security benefits, they had more than enough to cover their core living costs. Their retirement portfolio, which was close to 7 figures, hadn't been touched at all. It's like our investments are the cherry on top, Diana told me with a giant smile on her face. They were not anxious about the markets because their daily life wasn't dependent on market returns. And this might feel like some feel-good anecdote, but it's backed by research. A Morningstar study found that retirees who use guaranteed income to cover basic expenses, they report significantly higher satisfaction and lower financial anxiety, especially during volatile markets. And the reason is because they're not glued to the financial news. They're not worried about a down day and how that will derail their lifestyle. Their essentials are handled. They sleep better. So here's your securement tip. Create 2 spending columns, essential and optional. And then map your guaranteed income sources to the essentials. If you've got a shortfall, there's certainly strategies to close that gap without over-saving. If there's no shortfall, well, maybe it's time to stop saving and start living. The second reason to stop saving is if your number is in the bank already, and if that number is enough. From the time we start working, many of us chase a single figure like it holds the keys to the kingdom. Maybe it's 1.5 million or 750,000 or more or less. It doesn't matter. We're told that hitting that number is the holy grail of retirement planning. But here's the truth. That number only matters if you know what it's for, and if you understand when it's time to stop chasing it. Marlene, she came to me at 57. She was recently retired, no kids, and sitting on about $700,000 in savings. She'd done everything right. She saved diligently. She lived below her means, avoided bad debt. Still, she asked me, do I need to keep saving? And I get that. Because after decades of being told more is better, it's hard to flip the switch. So we took a look at her numbers. We looked at every angle: monthly spending, inflation risk, healthcare costs, future travel plans, even her desire to help her niece with a down payment. And after stress testing her plan across a range of scenarios, the verdict was crystal clear. She didn't need to save another dime. You have enough, I told her. She started to cry, and not because she was overwhelmed by money, but because no one had ever told her she could stop saving. She had crossed the finish line without realizing. And here's the thing. This isn't just about having a high net worth. It's about knowing what your number actually means to you. And although I don't favor rules like this, like the 4% rule, where you would draw 4% of your nest egg in the first year and then adjust it for inflation, these can give you a simple benchmark. Your real enough depends on your life, your spending, your risk tolerance, your health, and your goals. It's worth noting what behavioral finance expert Sarah Newcomb wrote in Loaded: Money, Psychology, and How to Get Ahead Without Leaving Your Values Behind. When people understand what they truly value, their target becomes clearer and often smaller. In other words, most of us oversave for fears we never confront and lifestyles we never choose. Here's your securement tip. Don't just ask what you need. Ask what you need that amount of money for. And if your portfolio, your income sources, and plan align with your actual lifestyle and goals, not some arbitrary number, then you may be wealthier than you think. And it might be time to stop saving and start savoring. By the way, if you're struggling with some of this stuff, our flat fee securement review might be just what you need to feel comfortable. There's no pressure to buy something. There's no pushy sales practices. Just a second look at your finances from a genuine fiduciary. Go to theretirementguy.com to see if you're a fit. Commercial over. The third reason to stop saving is that you've eliminated or significantly reduced your debt load. Debt has a sneaky way of messing with your retirement math. Whether it's credit cards, personal loans, or high interest auto payments, things like that, eats into your cash flow really fast. But if those are gone, or if it's only a small manageable mortgage, you're in a much better place than you might think. My client Andrew retired at 64. He didn't have millions saved, but his house was paid off and he had zero debt. He said, I feel light. And that freedom let him live well on less money. Here's some research to back this up. The National Council on Aging notes that retirees with low debt burdens report significantly higher life satisfaction because money stress isn't just about what's coming in, it's about what's going out too. By the way, if you watch my last video where I said it's okay to have a mortgage, you might find me to be a bit of a hypocrite. Right now I'm talking about paying off mortgages and being debt-free. The truth is that some people they don't mind a mortgage in retirement. It works for them. The thing is, we're not spreadsheets, we're not algorithms, we're people with emotions. And sometimes a decision that is less than optimal financially is more than optimal emotionally. And with all that said, I do believe having less debt is a reason to save less and enjoy more. The fourth reason to stop saving is you have a robust emergency fund and an account for big future costs. We know that life has a way of throwing curveballs, especially in retirement. A leaky roof, a need for a new siding, a surprise dental bill, or an adult child who suddenly needs help. These aren't if scenarios, they're really kind of when scenarios. That's why having a solid emergency fund, typically 6 to 12 months of essential expenses, maybe a little more, isn't just smart, it's quite essential. But beyond that, truly resilient retirees go one step further. They plan for big disruptions. If we think about long-term care needs, home repairs, new vehicles, or uncovered medical costs. When you've accounted for those, you're not just surviving retirement, you're protecting your freedom in it. I remember how Janet and Harold in our first meeting told me they had $100,000 tucked away in a separate life happens account. It wasn't invested. It wasn't mingled with other assets. It was just sitting there waiting. So when Harold needed unexpected rehab after knee surgery, they didn't panic. We planned for this, Janet said calmly. And that peace of mind isn't accidental. It's the result of proactive thinking. Here's a report from the Employee Benefit Research Institute that confirms this. Unplanned medical costs are one of retirees' biggest financial fears, but when you plan ahead, you're no longer at the mercy of every headline or hospital bill. Here's a securement tip. Don't just stress test your portfolio. We do that. Stress test your life. Build a cushion for the unknown so your retirement stays steady, even when life doesn't. And here's the final reason why I think you can stop saving. And that's if your financial plan has been tested and you sleep well at night. This is the real sign of success. Not whether you have a plan, but whether that plan holds up when life doesn't go as you hoped it would. If you've worked with a professional or gone through the hard work yourself and you've run the numbers through every kind of chaos scenario you can think of and still feel confident, that's when you know you've made it. We're talking about real stress testing here, Monte Carlo simulations that model thousands of market outcomes, guardrail strategies that tell you when to adjust your spending and when you can chill. What if planning? What if inflation jumps to 6% again? What if the market tanks early in retirement? What if you live to 98 and need care for the last 5? A good plan doesn't avoid these questions, it welcomes them. My client Ken came in with a thick binder and a spreadsheet for everything. He had mapped out every angle, but he still wasn't sleeping well. We ran his plan through every stress test we had. We added long-term care assumptions, ran vacation home scenarios, and modeled gifting plans for his grandkids if they were nice to him. After a few sessions, Ken leaned back and said, I think I can finally exhale. And that's the point. Retirement isn't about being financially invincible. It's about being emotionally free, knowing you've accounted for what matters and that the rug won't be pulled out from under you when life shifts. Here's a securement tip. Don't just build a plan, test it hard. Make sure it bends without breaking, and once it passes the test, give yourself permission to live like it. Here's my final thought. I think when you know, you know. And if you've nodded along to even a couple of these signs, it might be time to stop defaulting to save more and start focusing on living more. You didn't work all these years to keep stockpiling regrets. You saved to buy freedom. Now let your money do what it was meant to do, which is to support you. If you like this video, you might like this one. And thanks for watching.